Okay, y'all. Before I even start this chat, I need to be honest. Today's guest, I am not interviewing her from a place of, I've mastered this. It's really not that. I'm interviewing her as someone who very, very much needs this. Because if you're a high achiever, if you are the strong one, if you are the breadwinner, if you are the one everyone calls when something falls apart, or if you, like me, pride yourself on being able to just handle it, right? But you notice that your shoulders live somewhere near your ears, if you notice that your jaw is permanently tight, if you're the person that when those ads come on TV or on YouTube and they're just like, take 3 seconds to breathe while there's rainfall in the background and you're like, I needed this. Not y'all needed the commercial, right? That means your nervous system has not seen peace since 2019. Welcome to the club. This one is for you. And by you, I mean us. I am people. Dr. Danielle Griffin is a thought leader in somatic exercise therapy and a TEDx speaker dedicated to the science of mind-body connection. So she's blending a doctorates in organizational leadership with certifications in hypnotherapy and yoga, which means she understands ambition, pressure, leadership, and what it does to your body. She helps people like us, right? High performers, high achievers, do-it-allers, identify where stress lives physically and teaches us how to release it before it starts showing up as burnout or brain fog or insomnia or snapping at people you love or crying over an email that wasn't even that serious. She's the author of Somatic Exercise Made Simple, and her mission is to equip high performers with the somatic tools they need to heal deeply, transform their limiting beliefs, and actually optimize their well-being from the inside out. Thank you so much, Dr. Griffin, for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so happy to be here.
It's going to be good. It's going to be really good. I have to tell you, on the way in, as I was, driving, it's a beautiful day in LA today. And as I was driving over the hills, all I could think was, should I have worn different mascara? Am I going to cry? Am I going to cry? And then I was thinking about how you're so big on look, everything's a release, so that's not something to be afraid of if indeed I'm triggered. So can you talk me through a little bit about how that relates, how things differentiate? What is different from somatic style therapies? What are those versus, I think what we see on TV a lot is traditional talk therapy.
Right. So when you go into the somatics, right, that's an embodiment. So meaning whatever mental or physical stress you're carrying, you start to really physically manifest it in the body. And so over time, as that builds up, if you're not releasing it, you start to express symptoms, whether it be neck and back pain, digestive issues, high blood pressure, other chronic illnesses. And then we're sitting looking back how did I get here? What's wrong with me? How come I can't, regulate my system? Why am I losing sleep? And it goes back to being able to have awareness of how you're actually feeling mentally and physically, and being able to acknowledge that and release it.
That's really good. I think that a lot of people, culturally, right? My parents are from Ghana, West Africa. Therapy ain't a thing. Do you know what I mean? Not even talking about telling your kid I love you, talking about your feelings is not a thing. I've had to change that, right? In my family,
I literally just had a conversation similar to that. Growing up, we did not talk about our emotions. So when it came down to doing couples therapy with my husband, I didn't know how to identify how I felt. I didn't know what I was feeling. I felt like a child.
But you were feeling it.
Right. I was feeling something, but I was like, I need one of those children's books that actually identifies.
Point to the picture of what you're feeling.
What I'm feeling.
We have feelings wheels all around our house. And it's actually it's both a beautiful thing, but also a sad thing, right? Kind of bittersweet, because I adopted my first 3 girls from, a traumatic situation. And for that reason, they do struggle with articulating their feelings, and it's not something that we're embarrassed about. It's not a negative thing, because just like anything else, the way you had to be taught an apple was called an apple, you also needed to be taught that anger is called anger, or sadness or frustration, and the layered complexities, and having 3 girls, one that I raised since 3 and another that I raised since 14, I can see the disparity in their ability to articulate how they feel.
Right.
Which is why literally we have feelings wells in the bathroom, on the fridge, and sometimes when someone's saying like, oh, are you in a mood? What's going on? We pull the feeling wheel out, we put it in front, and we say like, where does this fit? And to just be able to give a starting point for conversation. So,
exactly.
When it comes to talk therapy versus somatic therapy, if you're someone who hasn't really been empowered with some of the tools that I think can help you optimize talk therapy, is somatic therapy what you really need? Like who is ideal, for the people out there who are like, I'm not doing therapy. Like, I don't need that.
Right. I get the question a lot, like, can I do somatic therapy in replacement of therapy? I always suggest you do whatever you need. A lot of people need both. Some people might need to start with somatics to start to really go within and understand what they're feeling and how they're feeling. They may not be ready to express it because they haven't yet learned themselves. And so somatics is a self-exploration, giving yourself the opportunity to acknowledge those feelings mentally and physically.
No, that's helpful. It almost sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's kind of like going into a general practitioner before going into a specialist,
right.
Where if I'm able to go into somatic therapy, I might be able to diagnose what I need to deep dive on in talk therapy.
Right.
Okay, no,
right.
that makes a lot of sense. So in talking about the difference, right? I think we've seen, whether it's on TV or on social media, we know what talk therapy looks like. Frankly, I think some people in podcasting think they're doing talk therapy, right? It's 2 people sitting across kind of hammering out the feels,
right.
Maybe one listening more than the other. What is somatic therapy like? Like, what are the different mediums, and modalities of somatic?
Somatics, like I said, is about having that self-awareness. So it can be a guided practice, but oftentimes I suggest it being more of a personal practice, because that's when you really allow yourself to understand those internal feelings, the physical feelings. If you're seeing that, okay, I have these symptoms, I'm losing sleep, the high blood pressure, the back pain, whatever the case may be, you can also start to reflect on those triggers that's causing that, whether it be external or internal. Is it a mental dialogue that I have about myself, or is it something that somebody else said, or is this thing going on? And start to have that awareness of what's triggering some of those symptoms and what's causing it to get worse.
That's really good. My favorite thing I think about somatic therapy is that it hits at the core of what, I try to encourage everyone, even in couples therapy, not me disclosing what happened in couples therapy. I'm not married to him anymore, so whatever. So, but in couples therapy, talking about how therapy is not just what happens in the room, it's also what you do outside of the room, right? And so somatic therapy is really the crux of it, is that you may be, learning and articulating certain skills with your guided, helper. But when you get out, you're actually engaging with them for the insight, for the awareness, and for the things to apply to fix whatever the heck it is that doesn't feel right.
Right, exactly.
What does that look like? Is that like, are we stretching together? Are we like, what are we doing? Like, if I were to sit down in a session right now with you, what does that look like? Saying like, hey, I'm feeling back pain, which also I'm going to dive into like where I'm feeling at my body in a second. But if I were to sit down with you right now as a high achiever, right? Like, I have 1,000 children, I run a huge business. I am on my second marriage, and I'm a public figure. So I am literally, there's not a day that goes by over the past 15 years that someone does not say something nasty to me. Right. So I'm sitting down and saying, enough. Oh, and then also this economy, this president, all the things, right? So enough, right? I'm stressed. Sis, I feel it in my back. What are you telling me?
Yeah. So that's when you start to identify the exercises that target those areas. So somatics is a combination of breathwork, meditation, and movement, doing all 3. You can do breathwork on its own, you can move on your own, you can meditate, but it's really embodying the complete practice to fully release. And so usually I start off with the breathwork before you even say, oh, my back hurts, right? Breathing. Start to release some of the tension, start to relax the muscles, seeing how you feel, doing a little movement. And then identifying how you feel at that point, what still aches, where is that coming from? So kind of gradually progressing through the session, and the length of time may vary, whatever the triggers may vary. You might need more time breathing or more time moving or meditating. And that's what I really like about the practice. It's personal. It's not like going to a fitness studio or a yoga studio where somebody's instructing you the whole way. It's set class form. You're doing what they tell you. It's really individualized, personalized to your specific needs.
My favorite thing about therapists is how they be tricking me into stuff that I wasn't even trying to do, right? So I'm a high energy person, and I'll come in and my therapist will be like, before we get started, let's just take a minute to kind of because I'll come in hot,
Right.
let's just take a minute to recalibrate. Not before we got started, sis, we starting, right? If you have me start with breath work, we already doing the therapy, right? I'm like, not you scam me, sis. Like, but is that what you mean? Essentially is just sort of, sort of the recalibration so we can get to what it is that we're trying to do.
Exactly.
So you're admitting for therapists everywhere that y'all be hustling us a little bit.
Well, most people need it because it's, we call it centering, right? Because like you said, you're coming in hot, you have all these things going on. But in order to really understand where it's coming from, like sometimes you just need to center, to ground, to release a little, kind of give yourself a little bit more of a clear head before getting back into it. Because especially if it's coming from a place of anger or frustration, oftentimes we just want to express the anger and the frustration
and just live in it. That's not that's not solving it, but that's living in it.
Right.
I found that breath work for me has been a very useful tool, because also, again, coming from an African culture background where this is just not something that we've discussed or embraced or even know much about, and I don't say that, we're not a monolith, right? But at least in my home, and my exposure to my culture. But breath work has been really helpful for me in transitioning between expectations. So when I'm going from the expectation of being a CEO, to getting ready to enter my home, breath work before I do that really helps me not bring certain people into certain rooms that aren't required. Or even if I'm going from being frustrated as a mom because my husband, my partner, isn't helping me with something, and I need to switch into wife mode so that I can have a conversation with him in a different way. Breath work and taking a pause there has really helped. Is that I mean, I guess there's no wrong way to apply it, but is that something that looks like somatic therapy? Is that the type of thing? Or
that would be more of your individualized practice, starting to identify what works for you. And that's really where I help a lot of my clients, just not doing it necessarily sporadically, but intentionally
throughout the day.
Right.
Yeah, throughout the day. I want to talk about this body pain. So one of the most popular books out there, heavily recommended by therapists, is The Body Keeps Score. You already knew that was coming, right? So I have to tell you, for those of us out here who, when you dawn on the fact that your physical symptoms, like your body's not a separate entity, right? Like your brain isn't actually separate from your body. And, it's not like, oh, as long as I get my mindset together, girl, like if your body's struggling, your body's struggling too, right? They have to work in unison. So when I read The Body Keeps Score and I realized that my environment, my choices, my, lack of breath work, all of that was part of why I was dealing with facial paralysis, why I was dealing with high blood pressure. I have not had a high blood pressure reading since I separated from my husband. Not to say that he is not what gave me high blood pressure. It was the way I responded, everything around that, the environment I curated.
Carrying all the attention.
Yes.
Right.
And I didn't realize, like I even shed extra weight simply by not being in. And I was like, oh, not this book is accurate. So can you walk me through that? Because it also wasn't, I thought it was just me for the longest until I read that book. And then I realized that even my kids, they would tell me their stomach hurt and it was anxiety.
Yep.
And that was when I said, oh, even in the simplest of sense, because kids are like the most honest, pure, truthful version of anything, right? So we've got people listening right now who have chronic migraines and chronic illnesses. And I didn't realize my chronic illness was my previous marriage, right? Like that thing wasn't chronic and it was not terminal. Like I could, I'm better now in that context. Walk me through. Are there people out there who are experiencing back pain and therapy is the answer, not medication? Not knocking medication. Listen, y'all hear me, not knocking medication, but how do you know the difference? If you've gone to 15 doctors, is it worth seeing a therapist?
I always say it's worth trying.
Information.
And right. And with anything, it's a practice, right? It's not a one and done.
Mm.
It's not a quick fix
And it's not an
overnight.
either or.
Right.
It might be in conjunction.
Right. Exactly. Just like you mentioned, the medication, for me, it made things move faster in terms of my healing journey, like mentally, physically, like you mentioned, the blood pressure, embodying this practice, just breath work alone can help stabilize blood pressure, lower the rates. If you're going, for me, historically, going to a doctor's office, my blood pressure would
White
spike.
coat syndrome,
right?
Like you
Exactly.
see it and you're like, pressure.
Like,
yes.
I know I took it at home and it was fine. And now I'm here with y'all and it's through the roof. But doing that practice, before I go into the doctor's office, they could actually get accurate measure of how I'm doing, right? And I was able to get off blood pressure medications.
Amazing.
Because of that practice. And, just like you mentioned, as you start to do one thing, you're seeing progress, other things start to fall into place. You mentioned kind of the weight loss, because you're now reducing your stress levels, you're getting sleep. All those tie into the chronic illnesses, like being able to give our bodies the opportunity we need to heal and recover. And most of us don't do that. We go from one stressful situation to one trauma to the next.
Or create multiple within. I think sometimes I didn't even realize that, running your first entrepreneurial business while also not having the respite of a peaceful home, is stacking traumas, and being so busy that you're not making time to sit down in therapy and navigate childhood trauma means that you have walked into these other environments and stacked on additional trauma. And it really did come to a point where I probably spent, I would say, 2 to 3 years stripping down some of these items so I could kind of focus and nothing's all the way gone, but, minimizing it so that it's manageable and not, I know I've added years to my life. God willing, right? But I know that at least I'm not taking years from my life with my choices, anymore. So, no, this is huge. And I really hope you all are hearing, Dr. Danielle's brilliant. She's not just lived this herself, but she's written the book, so that you guys can have that. And
3, actually.
It's actually 3. I know, right? I'm just thinking about your most recent, the Somatic Exercise. So it's like you have that guide, and the TED Talk and, like all of these pieces. So, I want to talk about something that's kind of popular online right now, because there are some people, who may be listening to this. And as everyone knows here, I'm a Christian. I'm proud of my faith. But, I'm also imperfect, which is very much part of being a Christian, and I'm on a journey and all that. Well, I see a lot of conversation online about things being demonic, right? And I know that can sound wild, I think, because, there's some elements of taking the Bible literally, in the most literal of sense, and then there's some things that are not even mentioned in the Bible. But as humans, we sort of figured out a way to attach, biblical reference to it. One of the biggest topics online is that anything related to a practice of yoga or meditation or breath work, anything outside of a direct relationship with a pastor or in the church is of a demonic root. Even peace walks by Buddhist monks where they're not asking anything of anyone is demonic. Can you walk me through both the scientific and spiritual, because you identify as a Christian as well?
Yeah.
How are you marrying the two? What is it natural? Is yoga demonic? In your take?
In my take, no. But just like anything, it's all about intention, right? The Hindu faith, I would say, is not demonic. I know many people that actually practice the faith, but you can do the practice of yoga without practicing Hinduism. And you can get the physical and mental benefits from it. And that's the main thing. What is your intention behind it? If I'm using this to heal my body, and I can still have a connection with Christ
Amen.
while I do it.
Yes.
Maybe my meditation, my form of meditation is prayer during that time.
And I mean, the Bible does call us to be still,
Right.
and I think that one of the things that a lot of us sometimes lose sight of is one of the biggest hindrances to growing in your Christian relationship is getting caught up in the rigmarole of human rules,
Right.
and when I see my 1-year-old sitting quietly, which is shocking as a toddler, it doesn't last long, but once in a while she'll have a moment and she's sitting there and I'm like, is she just kind of like in the morning when she
Right.
wakes up, just laying there, laying
Right.
there.
You start to get worried,
I
like,
know, a little
is
worried, like,
everything
is she
okay?
all right? Her eyes are open. This is we call it creepy baby stuff. We're like, this is some creepy baby stuff. What are you doing? But she'll just lay there with her eyes open
Right.
and she's just reflecting, right?
Yeah.
Getting ready for the day. She's not going a million miles a minute yet. And that is a very natural human body thing,
Right.
and as they get older and they are like, 3, 4, 5, 6, that intentionality occurs. And I would hesitate to call my baby doing yoga, because she's sitting cross-legged and taking a moment to breathe intentionally and calm herself down.
Yeah.
And my daughter, my 14-year-old, plays tennis. And she's been working on using different meditative and somatic tools to regulate her mind so she doesn't get caught up in her game.
Yeah, get into the flow states.
Get into her flow states, and she does that because she also, she's funny. She was like, I'm not trying to rack up these fines because I had a temper, because I threw my racket,
Right.
And so I just always am hesitant. The first thing I always say, just from my perspective, y'all, and y'all can come for me in the comments, I don't care. If people are saying that your HBCU sorority or fraternity is demonic, just one, consider the source, whether it's that or yoga, consider the source. How is this person living?
Right.
What exactly are they doing? Is there consistency in the things that they're saying and in the action they're practicing, right? And what is their source? Dr. Danielle here is a professional who has spent and dedicated her whole life to doing this work. And she's not doing it for fame, riches, or to sell you, 555,000 things that are not aligned with her practice.
Right. Right. So the reason I even started this, I learned about somatics. Like you mentioned, I practiced it myself before even sharing it with anybody. I learned about hypnotherapy. I saw the benefits it had for me personally. When other people started pointing out, like, oh, you're moving differently, not just physically, but like
energy.
how your energy, you're operating differently, you're communicating differently.
Did you find like you accomplished more?
I did.
Wow.
Because I stopped operating in fear.
And survival girl.
Right. So I was in survival mode. I let go. I knew what was for me, like what was meant for me. I stopped saying yes to everything and started saying yes to the things that were aligned.
You mean honoring your boundaries?
Yeah.
Ew, what?
What is that?
Not breathwork is helping you live a better life now.
Right. And when I saw all those benefits, not just the high blood pressure benefits, but just my whole life, full circle, I was like, I have to learn how to do this. I know so many people in my own circle that could benefit from this. I have to learn how to do it. So, learned the somatics. I learned about hypnotherapy. I got certified. And then I wrote the book.
That's right. And it's
like,
never
I have
too
to be
late.
able to share it.
Yeah. And it's
I can't
never too late.
hold on to, if you know that this is going to help heal people, like you mentioned, have longevity, help them get out of chronic pain, improve their overall mental and physical well-being,
Everything.
Let them experience joy again, let them be present with their families. If all those things were possible, would you hold it back? Would you keep that for yourself? Like if you knew that you had the tools to, I hate to say this, but like essentially change the world.
Literally, 1% improvement is massive.
Right.
And that was the thing that my therapist had to tell me, especially as a high performer who's like, well, what's the ROI on this? She was like, if I could reduce your anxiety from a level 10 to a level 7, how would you be? And I'm like, still, and mind you, 7 out of 10 anxiety is insane, like still. But to come down 3 points, I would have so much more room.
Right. We learned in hypnotherapy, it can be a gradual process. Like I said, even if you can bring it down to a 7, if it's fear anxiety, stress, visualizing yourself. What would I look like if I was 1 times more relaxed, 2 times more relaxed? How would I look and feel? How would I interact with others? And once you start stepping into that,
Game changer.
it's a game changer.
Yeah, I think that as a high performer, as someone who just has a lot on their plate, high capacity, right? Which is something a lot of uh, the women here, like, and a high performer doesn't just mean like, I have all the businesses. I mean, literally, like I'm managing all the babies. I just have all the things going
Right.
on. We often will not stop to do something if we don't think that it has immediate value. And I hope you all hear me and know that part of why I brought Dr. Griffin here today is because this truly allows you to create space and find more enjoyment in the things you are already doing. I would not be able, like when I think of my book tour, and you guys will hear more about this in book 2, but I ran a book tour while dealing with threats during a divorce, while dating someone new, while having all these damn babies, for a New York Times bestselling book, all at the same time while also healing my body and being like, dealing with the masses. Like
Yeah,
I would
that's a
not have
lot.
been able to do that if I didn't have my tools. I
Right.
would not have been able to and still
Right.
be standing. The things that you've seen me do over the past 3 years would have put me under the ground in the 3 years prior.
Right.
So, and I can say it's exclusively, I mean, obviously due to my relationship with Christ, thank you, but thank you God for inventing somatic healing.
Right.
'Cause
Exactly.
tools.
It's like that expression or that story, the hurricane came and the man was sitting on top of his house, so it's flooded, and they sent, a boat. And it's like, no, I'm waiting on God. And, all these things keep coming. And unfortunately, the man passed away. And it's like, God, what happened? It's like, I sent all this stuff to you. I sent this essentially the same thing. I send you all the tools you need. They were there.
Pick them up and
You
use
just got to
them.
use them.
Yeah, pick them up and use them. Oh, so good. Dr. Griffin, if there was one place that people should start, right? If they're listening right now and they're saying to themselves, okay, this is all good. I'm going to get the book. You came out with a new holistic healing set. That's really incredible. It has everything from sleep gummies to candles and
Yes.
all sorts of good stuff in it.
Right.
And I'll have the links, guys, for you below. If there was one place, because some people, they will get a journal every year. They will get all the tools, right? Where could they start right now? Like if they turn this off and they're done, what is the first thing they could do where they're seated
Yeah.
that would kind of get them on this journey and let them feel a little bit of what you're talking about?
Yeah. I always say at minimum, starting with like a 90-second pause. I talk about it a bit in the book, but the breath work, the meditation, and the movement. And it can look like however you need to. I usually do it in that order specifically. But start to breathe. Allow your body to tell you, how long do I need to breathe? Like when do I actually start to feel the release? Breathe as long as you need to. Deep inhales through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth. That exhale allows the muscles to relax, the shoulders to drop. And once you start to feel, all right, I'm actually like starting to slump in my chair, acknowledge where you're feeling any tension, discomfort, and do some movement. What feels good to you in that moment? And then once you've kind of released some of that in those areas that you needed, reflect. That's where the meditation comes in. I personally use the hypnotherapy as my form of meditation, because that's all it is. A lot of people have, a stigma around.
Oh, no, girl. Right now, I'm like, is she hypnotizing me right now? Her voice is very soft. What is going on? I'm feeling calm. What is she doing? No, I think
Sometimes
that, like, dive
just
into that a little bit just for a second so people can
Yeah.
understand that hypnotherapy is not you taking a swirly thing in front of my face and being like, you're getting very sleepy, right?
Right. Or the stage performers, while
Right.
it can be some
Sure,
of those
sure.
things, right? It's just a deep form of meditation, essentially. You have full control over your mind and body, right? If somebody's leading you, it might be suggestive depending on what we're working on specifically. I might guide you to a more relaxed state. I might have you visualize certain aspects of your life. We might talk about the past or the future, but you can speak, you can move, you can raise your hands, you can do things. If you want to come out of it, you can just say, I don't like what I was seeing or experiencing, and you can get up and walk away and you have full control. I nor any other hypnotherapist can make you do anything.
That's right.
And so
Or
that's
put anything there that didn't already exist.
Right. That didn't already exist. It's your subconscious mind. And whatever you tell yourself that you want or don't want, your mind will believe it to be true. And that's the biggest thing why I practice hypnotherapy and use it as part of my practice, because it has the ability to shift the mindset a lot more than me trying to say, oh, I'm just gonna stop doing this on my own, or I'm just gonna start doing something.
It's the why behind the what. Let's get in there and really unpack it.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's so powerful. And I hope you all hear that. I know as someone who I struggle with meditation just because of that whole shutting your mind off, so much going on, a million miles a minute. But I'm telling you, I can do 90 seconds. I can pause and transition. And, over time, I've gotten better at it, because when you calm yourself down, your brain is like, oh, it looks forward to it. It's like, this is my time to not do anything. This is lovely.
And that's why it's a practice too. Like you train, just how we trained ourselves to not do it, because it's actually a natural thing, but we've forced ourselves to ignore our physical and mental needs. And, just step right over it and get to work or whatever the case may be. But you have to undo all the things that we told ourselves we weren't supposed to do, and start to acknowledge, like, this actually feels good and it benefits me.
Yes. And it becomes like a superpower. I mean, I have to tell you, if you're someone who's around a bunch of people who are, high strung or possibly have their own traumas. One of the running jokes is I'm in therapy for all the people who don't do therapy, right? One of the real blessings is that if you know how to almost protect your peace in a physical way by always returning to it, you become untouchable in so many ways. People can't get you there. How you see certain women where they just seem so unfazed. Like we always joke, like our elders, some of the aunties, they just seem like you could just talk that mess and we don't get it. But guess what? Now think back to when you used to see your grandmother sitting there humming and rocking back and forth, and you're like, Grandma, what are you doing? And she's like, just taking a minute,
It's a soothing technique, something we actually use sometimes in hypnotherapy, that rocking movement, just like you do with your babies.
That's right.
When they're newborns, you rock them, you soothe them, you shh.
Babies do it to themselves.
Right.
It's a natural state, know? So, oh my gosh. I mean, we could talk about this all day. And if anything, you're so soothing. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is how people have peace, when you're just in proximity. You feel better. So I appreciate you. This is so incredible. I'm so grateful that you are vocal about your work, that it's not just sort of therapy behind closed doors, but you're giving therapy to the world. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I try to do my best to equip people with the tools they need to heal, whether it be the book or other lifestyle products to help support their journey, their healing journey.
And I love that. We're so grateful for you. I love that. Y'all, all of these tools will be available in the show notes below. You can follow Dr. Griffin all around the internet. She's easy to find, thankfully. Let everyone know where they can find you.
At drdaniellegriff.com.
And because I'm me, homework, the minute this is done, tell everyone, keep your AirPods in your ear and tell everyone that you're still listening, but take 90 seconds, okay? Yes. That is your assignment. Take 90 seconds. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Griffin. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.